All right, so for tonight's shave, this is a new to me brush. This is a vintage Rubberset 400 brush, and give you a little bit of glimpse at the bottom plate there. It's been restored by the previous owner, and I just bought it. And inside the brush knot here is a Declaration B5 knot, and that's my favorite knot so far out of all the his batches. This is the only one I've ever tested, but the reading and research out there that's available is pretty helpful, and I don't like a lot of scritch or tons of backbone. This is still pretty dense. You know, this is the same knot that I have on my my other B5, and notice how this one's expanding. I'm really happy it's doing that, and I want this one to do the same thing. And this one's expanding nicely, and I don't want to switch over to this one because this one's getting to where I want it to be. I don't think I'll keep both of them because they are expensive. So we'll just have to maybe switch to this one and get it working because this handle is longer. It has contours. I mean, there's a reason this was a successful handle type for a lot of years. This is aluminum, and it's been shined up nicely. This part actually unscrews up here. And it's especially made for bowl latherers and barbers and that kind of thing, so that you can keep your fingers away from the bubbles. But it's not so long that you can't hold it like this and and do your face as well. And so I'm really looking forward to trying this out. It's got these kind of star shapes here, but so far in my holding of it, those are just landing in really nice places. The pads of my fingers and my thumb are just landing in the flat spots really nicely. And so the fact that there are 6 sides to it, I think was a well informed decision. So let's get that in some water. That is my choice. I like to soak my Badger and Boar brushes in my little soaking cup here before a shave. The person I bought this from, see, look, it's expanding. The person I bought this from said that it had been used maybe 10 times, maybe less, and it didn't have very much splay, and so I bet they were very gentle with it. I mean, there's some people who don't actually splay the brush, meaning spread the hairs out, press it in so that it splays open. But I'm definitely one of those people who likes the splay. This is so dense that I wouldn't be surprised if there are people who don't actually splay it very much and just use the tips. Anyway, what else do we have? We have 50, this is the 54th use of this Nacet blade. We have 50 dots there, and we got 3 dots there. So this is the 54th of the Gillette Nacet. It's not irritating, it's not pulling, it's not cutting at the top level, of course, but it's cutting well. What is it inside of, you might ask? Well, that is the Charcoal Goods Level 2, and this is a gorgeous brass razor. This is the double helix handle, dual helix, I can't remember if it's double or dual. It's designed after the tech heads from yesteryear, the Gillettes. I find it this may be my most unpredictable razor, probably the one that I need the most training on, the most practice on. I've already put the Nacet blade in it. I mean, look at it's a gorgeous piece of engineering. This is the antique brass finish. It does get a little slippery if it's soapy and wet, so I do have to be careful with that. I haven't used it very many times because it's so touchy. When I use my normal angle, I get very rough shaves. I'm going to start with that today. But I learned online that if you open the angle up, it starts to get better. So I'm tempted to start shaving with this guy until I either like it or sell it. You know, that kind of thing. if it's too high maintenance, if it takes too much training. There are just so many good razors that I already have. Even though this is gorgeous, I'll just pass it on to somebody else. All right, the Williams that we'll be using today has been soaking. This is something I've kind of been doing the last few days. I'm trying to use up this puck. So let me pour out the bloom water. I used hot water to soak it. Probably didn't matter too much. And then here's what the puck looks like inside, dying very, very slowly. Before I start loading, let me go ahead and splash my face with a little bit of water. All right. So what I'm going to do, as usual, is just kind of pull this guy out of the water. I'm going to tilt him over so that some of the excess goes away. And then I'm going to give it one jostle. And then that's the water we're going to use today. I'm going to stir for, let's try 15 seconds. One more jostle. Since I remember I'm not going for 20 seconds, I'm going for 15. All right, so when the clock hits 30 there, I'll start my countdown in there. All right, just a 15-second load. I'm not used to holding this brush, and so it's kind of clinking against the sides. I'm going to do, I kind of fumbled with it a little bit. I'm going to do 2 extra seconds. And there we go. That's 2 extra seconds. I'm really curious. I mean, if I were to look at this brush, I'd say, I don't think that has enough soap. So let's just see what happens, huh? We can always come back to the pug and get some more if we need to. But I've been loading with 30 seconds. And last night, I think I did 20 seconds. And it was still plenty. I had a little bit extra left over, so I thought, let's try 15. All right, here's my lather bowl. I like this is deeper. This is about 3/4 of an inch deeper than the Captain's Choice large lather bowl and the Fine Accoutrements lather bowl. I think they're too shallow. Too much time spent managing the lather, trying to keep it in the bowl. Let me turn your camera angle where you see more of the bowl and less of my head. As usual, the Williams will start up as a frothy, airy, bubbly lather. Just keep mixing. Now let's see what, right now I'm using this kind of grip. My middle finger here is going in a nice little place in the flat part of the brush, and so is my thumb over here. This is not great, but let's just do this for a while. I have nice grip. So let's just do this. I can always switch to this kind of hold if I want to tilt my brush over, if I've got one that just really needs some extra agitation. Switch back to the first grip I showed you. Yeah, so far I like this. You know, in a perfect world, this handle design might be a little bigger. You know, if I ever get a wood turning lathe or something like that, you know, maybe I'll try to craft a bigger, a thicker, girthier version of this. Yeah, I'm definitely using different muscles than I usually do because I feel it. We've got some parts of the lather here that kind of have a sheen in a few places. Look at the pillowy goodness. Now, you see, look at that little outcropping. See how he's holding himself up? That is something to look for. Sometimes that means a lather is too dry. I may have done too many shakes. So, that brush that didn't look like it had very much soap on it, plenty of soap. How about that? Now take a look. Look at all the jaggedy parts. Look at that rough kind of moonscape. And there are a few curvy places, but this is usually a sign with most soaps that it is a little less hydrated. And so I am going to take my syringe that I use normally to add water, and I'm going to add a half a teaspoon. And also, sometimes if you're stirring a little too fast, things are feeling a little hectic, hands maybe cramping a little or something like that, stop and take a moment. Realize that this is a ritual, this is an enjoyable tradition, or it can be at least if you put your mind right. And just slow down, take a few deep breaths, slow down. You know, sometimes if I feel like my mixing is a little too monotonous, I'll just switch from a more critical mix to where I'm really trying to get it in all the right places, and I'll just kind of look away and just stir, slow stir like this. Just kind of take a few deep breaths, and I usually find that's very relaxing. And then I come back and the lather's better for it. Let's check it out now. That's pretty good. Elasticity there. Pretty good. Let's do a finger test. Got a little bit of cushion. It's it's very slick. It's letting me glide over my fingerprint ridges. I do kind of notice that they're there. It's not really creamy, but I think it will be a very good lather. I think what I'm going to do is add just a little bit more water. Just stir for a little bit. We'll see how long this Williams puck takes to die. I think that'll be good. Just go with this. I don't think it's going to be like creamy on my face or anything like that, but I think it'll be a good performing slick lather. I don't think it's going to feel luxurious. There we go. Try that out. Get my face wet. All right. Oh, those soft tips. Also, since this is early on in the brush's career, you can see how it's kind of hogging the lather. Look at that. It's kind of killing the lather. Okay, so that's all right. Sometimes that's a good reason to bring more lather into the party. These tips feel great. It is pretty tight, you know, it's not really letting me splay. Wow, look at that. Again, it's kind of killing the lather. So let's try to pull some from the, you know, sides of the brush. I guarantee you the other one that I have that's maybe 13 uses old or something like that, wouldn't be doing this. And I think it's just because, I mean, this may have been used so gently that in practicality it might have only been used, you know, kind of once. Let's just keep adding lather until it finally takes and stabilizes. Just a great feel. Did I sling off a little bit? I think I did just a tiny bit. I'm just going to add a little bit more now, and then I'm going to rely on the second and third passes to be a little nicer. I think that'll do. Let's just see what happens. And try the normal angle. It'll probably be too rough and bitey. I'll probably switch pretty quickly. A lot of blade feel. Now every other time I've used this razor, I've gotten this kind of experience. However, it's been quite damaging to my skin because the blade is newer, and so it's sharper. This one's a little smoother because it's been through some uses, and so that might be the, you know, the smoother blades that aren't quite as bitey might be the ones that, if I end up keeping this razor, that kind of gravitate. So I don't want to irritate my skin. I feel like if I keep up with that angle, my skin is just going to throw a mutiny. So I'm starting to open up the handle a little bit more. And I've kind of had good practice with that with the Wolfman that I used for about 2 weeks. Because I had to do that too to kind of calm him down. So let's see if that practice helps me today. All right, face doesn't feel irritated. Notice there's some types of irritation where you get, your skin kind of gets abused, but you don't know it until maybe another pass later, or even the last one. Maybe because it builds. Don't know for sure. Right now, comfortable. Gonna rinse. All right, I went ahead and dabbed away the water, making the assumption that perhaps this lather doesn't need any help with the water. So, make sure it's all mixed properly. second pass. The lather killer. Wow. It also could be that in the beginning stages of this particular brush's life, you may want to mix it a little rich instead of going quite so thin. So it's kind of common to have kind of an empty area between when you're doing the swirling passes, but usually what you end up with is plenty of soap around the sides that you could kind of do that with. I'm going to go ahead and dab a little bit more of the lather out of the bowl. I would guess that with this kind of density, I wonder if face lathering is difficult for the first few uses with this. Kind of liking the handle so far. We'll see. It uses different muscles. It may take me a couple of weeks before those muscles get used to being used and grasp, the way you grasp it. And so then that might be the best time to then evaluate your the grip and the ease of ergonomics and that kind of thing. Cross grade. So this razor has never been anywhere near smooth for me. I think it is smooth for some folks out there. For me, I feel like it's a caged lion. And if I lose my focus at any point, he will jump up and draw blood. But it's easier now than it was when I was trying it out several months ago. Maybe I've used other razors that kind of require this grip. And so maybe it's a little bit more in my muscle memory right now. This is the tricky part. I'm having to stop and think about what angle I should use and make sure that my pressure is where it should be. 54-use-old blade. Seems like it is getting it done. Got to rinse. Don't feel any kind of irritation. Everything's going really well. All right, so now is the third pass. So let's get all of the lather. I wanted to, I could just dip this guy back in the the puck there for just a couple of swirls and bring back soap. But I kind of want to learn and kind of experiment with, what happens with this type of soap. And it does still seem like it's giving me good protection, being a little bit on the thinner side. Doesn't have to look like Santa Claus's beard, it just doesn't. And there we go. I think we've got just enough to do 3 passes and maybe one tiny little touch-up area. And there we go. So I guess for this brush, until it starts to really open up and bloom and that sort of thing, looks like maybe we should load a little heavier than usual and maybe a little drier than usual. All right, last pass. This razor is a whole different animal than it was the last time I used it. I mean, it's going over areas, and I just feel like I might just be getting one of the best cuts of my life. You know, with some razors, you go over an area and you hear the hairs, so you think, okay, I'm cutting some hairs. Go back over it again, you hear the same sound. Wait a minute, if I was there and I was cutting, there should be a different sound. This is different. Just now, I'm going over this area, these areas right here, and I'm not hearing the hair cutting sounds. I'm very anxious to see the result. Okay, see, there's some hair cutting sounds right there. Maybe camp out there for a second. I'm using a slant, a little slide kind of motion where I tilt the razor a little bit. All right. So you saw how thin that lather is, but I feel really well protected. And I can feel slickness still on my face. All right, let's rinse this thing off. And sure enough, that was an amazing shave. 95% baby butt smooth on my cheeks without going against the grain. This area with a 54 use blade cut it better than average. There's plenty of spots here where the hair is cut flush, and just a few little hairs that where I can see the tiniest bit of length on. I mean, just very few, like one or two. And that is super rare for me, especially stopping after the third pass and not doing a fourth neck only pass. I think finally my technique level and my skill level has caught up to this little razor. Wow. How about that? So he's definitely worth some more time. And I'm glad I got him when I just didn't have the technique down pat yet. I wasn't trained in holding those angles and holding the pressure and which directions to come from to help it be as smooth as possible. And so this needed to wait for me to catch up to it. And I thought that might happen because I had received some wisdom online about it being the technique, not the tools. And so I thought this is the gorgeousness of this little piece is what kept it in my drawer, because I thought, you know what, this is unique and very nice. If I do catch up to it later, then let's see if I can then be able to use it. And sure enough, I have a irritation-free shave. The lather was thin, but did the job nicely. So it just goes to show you, you don't have to have at all that Santa's beard, big fluffy, very dense lather all around you. In fact, sometimes that can get in your way. Sometimes it is so dense and self-contained that it doesn't attach as much onto your skin to be able to protect you with its lubricating powers. If it's thinner, then it kind of does something like this, and so it's there to protect you. At least that's kind of the way it feels to me. All right, so how much lather do we have left? This much. So in the future, the 15 seconds, once this guy gets worked up, the 15 seconds might be just right. But geez, soap is so cheap, especially Williams, so I'd probably just stick with the 20 seconds, you know, for now. And then maybe be a little bit more careful with the water. I think I added too much there. My guess. Williams is tough. Williams is a tough soap to figure out because the artisan soaps, when you take your brush and load up the lather from the tub, and then you move to your bowl, or if you do like I do and you press a 1/4 teaspoon or so of soap into the bottom of your lather bowl, and then you start working it, it starts kind of thick. And so you add water and keep working it. And then it slowly starts to be from thick to get more creamy and slick. And it starts to head in a direction that is easy for you to see, to know when to stop. However, Williams has this thing where it doesn't do that. It starts off airy, and if you don't stop at the right spot, it keeps on going into airy, and then it's too thin. And so it's really tricky to know when to stop. So that's why I measure, do things like that to help me be able to know. I don't know if it's too easy to eyeball. You know, it may be a formulation thing. It may be a recipe thing where, okay, every time I'll pull my brush out and shake it once, and then that's the amount of lather that I need, water that I need. Anyway, so Williams is tricky that way. If it's airy and thin, it's possible that you haven't given it the water to activate it. It's also possible you've given it too much water and it's on its way out. The good news is, as I just demonstrated, I had a slick lather, had a little too much water, but it still performed with an old blade and an aggressive razor. This razor is aggressive for me. Some other people maybe not. It performed, and it handled, that thin lather handled this with no problem. I have zero irritation. Let's get an alcohol splash and see if it's going to tattletale on any tiny micro injuries. Tonight, my nose is still kind of stuffed up. So let's send it something hefty. Send it something full-bodied. Cognac and Cuban cigars from Henri and Victoria. And this has denatured alcohol, so there we go. I'll get my sting if it's there. But to help your skin, it's got witch hazel extract, aloe, some type of leaf juice, and some type of glycol. So not too many ingredients. Sometimes that's a good thing. All right, let's throw this on. It does not have menthol, so I'm happy about that. No stings. That's a good scent. Let's have a little bit more of that. I played it a little conservatively. First time. That's a nice scent. Their soap base is really good too. They're regular soap base, but then they've got this new thing called the triple milled, but it's not the same triple milled as the hard soaps. It's different. I wish they would have not used that term because it means something special in the shaving world. But there we go. Maybe this will wake up my congested nose. All right. Yeah, it's nice. So, no stings. So my technique was there. My technique was good tonight. This razor's got to be a keeper then, right? I can't get rid of that goodness. Take such an old blade and have the aggression level to cut this stuff short after 3 passes. And give no sting. And that's nice. That's nice. And this, if I put a new blade in this type of razor and it starts to irritate me, then comparing those two experiences, the older blades that are more smooth, still sharp, but more smooth, less edgy, might be the way to go in this razor. So there you go. Your mileage may vary, right? One razor blade might be junk in one razor, but the perfection in another one. So I'm going to clean up, and very cool. So as you could guess, this razor was this shave was a very good, enlightening, it woke up some enthusiasm for this razor that just wasn't there before because of my experience. So I learned a good bit on this particular shave. Wish I could tell when overwatering the Williams was going to happen a little more closely. It's not the cheapest soap on the market, and so coming back to it is really more of a nostalgia thing. And so I don't guess I'm going to study it too hard. If you're interested in it in its economical means, you may want to check out Prix de Provence 63. The scent is much nicer, kind of a warm, peppery, spice, a little bit of spice to it, and it's a hard puck that lasts forever. Williams is a hard puck, but it's smaller and it's not quite triple milled like the PDP is, and so it lasts maybe a month and a half, 2 months. At least that's what I'm getting so far. Another one is Arco, but it's got an industrial lemony smell that puts off a lot of people. But in terms of practicality, that one stick of Arco will last a very, very long time. And it's, you can get it for $1.50 or $1.80 or something like that if you are a wise shopper. Sella is a popular soap in some areas, and had some up there, but it's not really reachable. And it lathers really easily, much better than Williams. It's got a great cherry, marzipan type almond scent. It's the same recipe that it's been used in Italy for 100 years or more, and that's one of my favorites. But the key is you buy it in the 1 kilogram block for $30, and you get basically the equivalent of 7 tubs of it, and that's going to last you a very long time. So those are probably some less expensive options than Williams if you're really going for the cost savings. All right. I don't think there's anything else to say. That was just a wonderful, surprisingly delightful shave. Face still feels terrific. Nice. So the Charcoal Goods Level 2 Antique Brass turned out to be a great razor for me. Who knew? Be interesting to try a newer blade in it to see if it behaves better, or if it just behaves this way only under the kind of older, smoother blades. So anyway, like me, I hope this helped you in some way. Take care. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. It's late. It's time to go to bed. Good night.